Shavua Tov, Mazal Tov. So, Be'ezrat Hashem, just to recap where we left off last shiur, we have addressed, discussed, explained the importance of aligning your actions with the berachot, with all the blessings that reside in each and every one of us. And through those actions, we tap in to the chok, we tap in to the luchot haberit, to the tables of commandments that are making us, and our actions will then allow our own Torah to be written, our own 10 commandments to be written. And in the last shiur, we explained that in order to infuse properly your actions and to give life to your actions, so that your actions are not just robotic actions, like we call in the slang of the Gemara, ma'asekov, an action of a monkey that has no depth, no life, no soul to it. So we brought what the Mishnah in Berachot teaches us, that the Kriyat Shema, that we have to say Shema Yisrael before Ve'ahavta. And the reason behind this is so that a person can accept upon himself all Malchut Shamayim, the importance, he carries the importance, the responsibility of serving Hashem, of the Emet, of living the Emet, fighting for the Emet, accepting the Emet, representing the Emet, and only through that can he then come and give Emet, give truth and life into his actions. And then we went further and we explained, based on the Rambam, the 3 pillars that together represent what we call all Malchut Shamayim, to accept the acceptance and the application of this responsibility towards humanity and towards the world of being a truthful person, of a person that's dedicated to the Emet. And the Rambam told us it's based on 3 things. It's based on Yehudo, and what that means, we explained that last shiur, is to be fully independent from everybody else and only depend on Hashem. And that's how you show Hashem that He is the one and only one. Since intellectually, if you think about it, nobody can really understand the concept of one. We can understand the concept of unity, but the concept of one is very difficult to understand. Therefore, how do you become one with Hashem? Or how do you express your belief and your trust that Hashem is one? By not being dependent on anyone but on Hashem. Then the Rambam said, step 2 is ahavato, His love. We said that if we understand that Hashem is everything, Hashem is everywhere, then Hashem is also within us. There's no me and Hashem, there's only Hashem. And therefore, all the love that a person has for himself, if he's able to change the perspective and realize that his love for himself is really the love for Hashem. So this is the highest love a person can have for Hashem, and this is ahavatu. Ahavatu. All this protection, all this safety net, all the care that a person gives to himself to make sure that he's not being hurt, to make sure that he's not going to be physically, emotionally, intellectually hurt. All this care comes from the love for himself. And at the end of the day, what we explained in the last shiur, this is really, if we have the right perspective, love for Hashem. And third of all, the third pillar, the Talmudo. And we explained that Talmudo is the thirst to want to grow that connection, the thirst to want to implement more of that connection in our lives. And that, by essence, is what triggers the bracha, the berachot, right? This covenant that has in it all the blessings of the Torah that then come and crystallize and reveal itself in our lives. So that's up to the last shiur. However, we need to be aware that as much as we have within us the blessings, this covenant, right? Those beritot that we have in the Torah, that we addressed a few shiurim ago. As much as we have berachot, there's also lo aleinu kelalot, there's also curses. And those curses are basically a counterforce to the berachot. Now, what we spoke about until now is to focus our actions on the berachot. However, we need to know that there is also in the Kriyat Shema, and we will see today, that an avodah, a work, an outlook that a person needs to have in order to neutralize totally the influence of the curse. So it's one thing to have in us beracha, to have in us blessings, and to generate blessings. It's fantastic. But what can we do? Hashem created the world with polar opposite forces. So we need to be aware of that force, but also learn how to neutralize it so that the negativity, the curse, the darkness does not come and mix in the beracha and influence us or sidetracks us. So in the past we spoke about the fight between Am Yisrael in Refidim and Amalek, and we brought this phenomenon of Moshe Rabbeinu that had his hands that were very heavy, and while Yehoshua was at war against Amalek, Moshe had next to him Aaron and Hur that were holding his hands for the hands not to go down. And we explained a very fundamental and important lesson is that this Moshe that has his hands that are heavy, that he has a hard time raising, is the reflection of the battle every human being is facing. On one end, he has the influence of darkness, the influence of Amalek that is pulling him down, that is paralyzing him, freezing him, confusing him. We say many, many times that Amalek in Hebrew has the same numerology as the word Safek. Safek means doubt. Our Chachamim teach us that the root of Amalek, basically, that's what our Chachamim tell us, that Amalek was able to bring back Gehinnom into the world. Am Yisrael was ready to elevate themselves to the level of Adam HaRishon before the sin. There was no dispute in humanity after the revelation of the 10 Makot. The whole world was in awe of what they heard, of what they witnessed. But Amalek, with his chutzpah, with his arrogance and audacity, is the one that made this breach and brought back the doubt, brought back the darkness of Gehinnom, of the judgment of Gehinnom into the world. And Am Yisrael, which is, if you will, the power to elevate, to bring light, positivity, right? The hands of Moshe that were the emunah, the belief in a bright future, the belief in life, was constantly fought. This heaviness was pulling him down, and he needed two people, Aharon on one end and Hur on the other. Now, this reality is a perspective that we need to keep in mind, that no matter what in life, and as much as we want to grow, we're always facing challenges that are pulling us down. Sometimes it's situations, sometimes it's people, sometimes it's just emotions, sometimes it's just things we couldn't even expect. And this situation refrains us from growing, from shining, from blossoming. And Shlomo HaMelech in Kohelet tells us that it is extremely important for a person that wants to grow to identify and recognize that there is this ra, there is this bad, there is this darkness in everyone's life. Like the Pasuk says in Kohelet, Ze ra bechol asher na'asa tachat hashemesh. This heaviness, this darkness, this confusion, those doubts are ra, are bad. And all this is what happens under the sun. The Rambam in the Sefer Amoreh calls this energy, calls this dynamic of negativity, Yam HaMe'uraot, a sea of misfortunes, a sea of difficulties. And us, and as individuals that wanna survive, wanna live, so we have to swim in that sea. We have to navigate and escape these situations that can make us drown, or that can make us weak, or set us back. And so King Solomon, Shlomo HaMelech says, if you want to be able to grow, and if you want to be able to rise, you need to be aware of that element, of that dimension that is called Amalek, that is called darkness, that is called Din Gehinam. Amalek is the one who basically brought back death, if you will, when the humanity was about to be fully changed forever in good. Amalek is the one who brought all the darkness back. So if we're aware and we're able to understand that there is always a pushback in our growth from what we call in the Torah the Kelala, the curse, which has for root the darkness, the Ra, the bad, that has for its root Amalek, like we say, all those dark things. And we need to be aware of it. So it is our responsibility to understand how to fight it. How do we push it back? How do we neutralize it? First, like we said, the awareness that there's nothing that is 100% good. Nothing is capsulated in and protected 100%. All the good has a pushback of negativity. However, what we learn from the Torah is that what allowed the hands of Moshe to stay up was two people, Aaron HaKohen, which we know very well, and Hur. Hur was the grandfather of Bezalel, and these two individuals have or are known for very specific traits. Aaron HaKohen, everybody knows, Ohev Shalom, Rodef Shalom. Aaron HaKohen is the man that was proactively going after the Shalom, after the peace, after unity. He didn't let anything pass or sit. He would always go and bring things together, reunite, re-strengthen. Our Chachamim tell us, Keneged Anochi Hashem Elokecha. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, and I am Hashem, your God, is which is the first commandment of the Torah, which we heard from Hashem directly, not through Moshe. So, if we readdress what we've learned in the past, this is one of the commandments that we didn't have a buffer. So, that was not, if you will, tainted by the need, right, to think that we have the right to din. We've discussed about it in the past. So Aaron HaKohen is the proactive Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I am Hashem, your God. The one that is coming out and saying, I am with you. Anochi Hashem Elokecha is, we are one. And this is represented through the Shalom of Aaron HaKohen. The second individual that was helping Moshe and was carrying Moshe's hand was Hur. Hur, we addressed it in the past, was the one that confronted Am Yisrael at the time where they wanted to do the Chet HaEgel, the sin of the golden calf, and told them, what are you guys doing? And he started rebuking them and explaining them that they were wrong. Tochacha. Tochacha is the rebuke, constructive criticism. Who represents Lo yeh lecha elokim acherim. What is a rebuke? What is a criticism? Is when you go to someone and you say, you know what you're doing is wrong. Do not do it. Also, the second commandment of the Torah, Lo yeh lecha elokim acherim, was also heard by Am Yisrael. We heard it from Hashem directly. These two first commandments were the commandments which we received directly from Hashem. Everything else we received it through Moshe. So here, the Torah comes and tells us that if you want to be able to fight the heaviness, to fight the negativity, to fight the curse, to fight the influence of what is called Gehinam, you need two things. You are the Moshe Rabbeinu, but you need with you two things. Number one, the proactivity of peace and unity and love. And number two, the wisdom to be able to rebuke and do constructive criticism without hurting, but for the benefit of the unity and the union and the growth of whoever you're talking to. Those two fundamental laws or behaviors are what's needed to fight the heaviness. In the schools of thought, in the yeshivot, in the Torah, in people in general, you find that you have two types of people. You have the person that analyzes the negativity, learns about it, and tries to minimize it, tries to control it, to condense it, stabilize it. But the avodah is really to fight the bad and refrain the bad. Then there's another school of thought. There is a school of thought of what is called Slabotka, the school of thought of focusing on the good, focusing on the light, empowering the light, making the light shine, making it the most important aspect of your life, and grow. And hopefully through that growth of light, you're able to shy away from the darkness and slowly push it away from your life. Our Chachamim in the last generations have taught us, my rabbis have taught me, that the generations that we're in are not the generations to start focusing on containing and assessing the bad, but instead focusing and empowering the good. And what is the reason? Because we are in a generation where the negativity and the darkness, the doubts, the confusions, the distractions are so present, are so infectious in our lives, that if you're going to start focusing on the darkness, you're going to get lost. There's no way out. It's like choosing darkness or choosing a battle you're for sure going to lose. So the whole avodah, all our focus, especially in these days, is to counterbalance that bad by doing good, by empowering the light, by empowering the bracha that's in us. If we go back to what we've learned last week, we spoke about Shema Israel, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. And we said that in order to be able to have actions that have depth and are meaningful and impactful, so we have to inject elements like we addressed, what we spoke about in the beginning of the shiur. What's very interesting is that if you look at the wording of Shema Israel, and it's brought in many Sidurim, Shema Israel is the verse of Shema Israel is broken into two. Shema Israel, Hashem Elokeinu. Shema Israel, listen, Hashem is our God. Our rabbis tell us that's referring to Anochi Hashem Elokecha, the first commandment. Hashem Echad. Hashem is one. What does that mean? Hashem is one. Is one and no two, or no, not second. There's only one. Referring to Lo yeh lecha elokim acharim. You should not have another God but Hashem. In that formulation, in that sentence that we say, that has in it this injection of beracha and this empowerment of beracha, there is also the two pillars that protect our beracha, or that uplift ourselves by pushing down the negativity, that's fighting the negativity. Like we just said earlier, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, that represents Shalom, represents Aharon HaKohen, and Lo yeh lecha elokim, you will not have another God, that represents the Hur, which is the power of rebuking and constructive criticism. What's beautiful also, and I will not go into the details of it, not to bury you with too much details, but the Sabah Kadisha says in Mahsof Alavan that if you take the numerology, the full numerology of Shema Israel, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, and we all know that if you look at the Dalet of Echad, it's a big Dalet. According to Halakha, it has to have the shiur, it has to have the ink as if you're writing 4 Daletot. Is the numerology 1130, 1130, exactly the same numerology of the word Herev. Herev is a sword. Herev b'milui, if you write the word Herev fully, so Het, Yud Tav, Resh Yud Shin, and Bet, which is Bet Yud Tav, you get to 1130. The beauty is that if you take the numerology of Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed, which is the second pasuk that we add on to Shema Israel, which is the answer that Yaakov gave to his sons when his sons said Shema Israel Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, which represents the unity, has also in it the numerology of Cherev. Meaning that when we say Shema Israel, we have, according to the Kabbalah, we rise two swords that are referring, one to Aharon HaKohen, one to the power of Shalom that fights the darkness, the power of unity, the dedication of unity, the dedication of love, and the other one, the sword of Hur, the one that will be the proactivity to rebuke or do constructive criticism to a person in order to build, in order to unite, in order to elevate. And the most amazing thing, if you think about it, so here we have in one Shema Israel, in the easy Shema Israel, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, that everybody says, or should be saying, most are saying, not only that we relate to the power that pushes back the darkness through internalization, recognition, acceptance of the influence and the power of shalom, of peace, of unity on one end. On the other, the importance to be sensitive and make sure that when we see something that's not right, we address it in the right way. Through that, we neutralize the kelalot. We neutralize the Gehinnom of Amalek. This Amalek that represents all those doubts and all those confusion and distractions that we spoke about. You want to get rid of all this? The fears, the doubts, everything. You want to get rid of it? Through internalizing the importance and the responsibility that we carry when we say Shema Yisrael, of peace, of unity, of shalom, and on the other hand, the responsibility of constructive criticism. But that doesn't stop here. Not only that, but we also inject in our essence the three fundamental pillars of the beracha, of all those berachot that live within us. Like we said, Yehudo, Ahavato, Talmudo. But the most puzzling thing is that if you think about it, who were the two individuals, key players, that stood against Am Yisrael at the time of the Chet HaEgel, at the time of the sin of the golden calf, and fought Am Yisrael in their own way? It was Aharon HaKohen that was trying to calm them down and try to trick them, try to appease them. And the second one is Chur. The two individuals that did not participate to the sin of Chet HaEgel, of the golden calf, are Aharon and Chur. Exactly the two individuals that represents the power that fights the sin, the din, the judgment, the gezerat din that we brought upon ourselves with the Chet HaEgel. And this is the tikkun that we do every time we say Shema Yisrael. We fight the din. Now we have to understand a little deeper, what is this klala? What is it? What is this Gehinnom? So I saw the Maharal of Prague in Gorarie, actually in last week's parasha, says the following. He says that we know, our rabbis teach us, that Gehinnom and the Machloket were both created on the second day of the creation. This is why, if you read the Torah in Bereshit, you will see that every day you see Vayar Hashem ki tovu. Hashem saw that his creation was good, was tov. The only day where you don't see tov is on the second day. And our rabbis tell us this is what he calls sheni. Sheni means two, but also sheni comes shinui. Vayavdev, there was a hafrasha, there was a separation. Comes the Maharal and tells us, when a person chooses machloket, when a person chooses the separation, the fragmentation, the distancing, he chooses Gehinnom. And at that point, the person brings judgment upon himself. Exactly like the Chet HaEgel. Chet HaEgel or Korach, what were they about? They were about machloket. They were about Gehinnom. So at that point, you don't need, the person doesn't need to be judged or go in front of the court of Hashem and be judged. Because that person already judged himself. He brought upon himself death. Our rabbis, the Maharal, say, there's in the Torah, there's a mitzvah to kill Amalek. Something nobody understands. The Torah is so peaceful, so we would think of such a thing. Says the Maharal, a person that chooses machloket is already dead. He chose to take himself out of the ecosystem of life. So our responsibility, Rabotai, is to make sure when we say Shema Yisrael in the morning, and we say it early in the morning, we rise and bring back to life the covenant that we have with Hashem, that includes to make sure to fight the machloket, to fight separation, to fight arguments, to fight this darkness, this sickness, this disease that lives deep, deep, deep amongst ourselves, and that became so normal. And we fight it through being proactive in shalom, in being proactive and being sensitive when we need to address a criticism to somebody. But also we empower the berachot. We empower our actions. This is how, on one end, we neutralize. This is a promise from the Torah. This is a promise from the Torah. This is why Chachamim chose that we say Shema Israel in the morning and at night, just so that we are covered with full berachot, and we neutralize completely the influence of the kelalot, of the curses. So Be'ezrat Hashem, we should be zocheh to not only hear the concept, understand the concept, but live it, live the shalom, live the constructive criticism, whether you give it or you receive it, live the unity with Hashem, live the love that you have for yourself, which really is for Hashem, and live the thirst to grow closer and bring all these dimensions part of yourself, so that we can all be Be'ezrat Hashem, the people, the individuals Hashem expects from us and is waiting to see in us every single second. So Be'ezrat, we choose the light, and we choose to fight the negativity, but not by drowning in it, but by empowering the berachot, the life, the light that resides and lives and shines and burns in each and every one of us. Shavua tov, mazal tov. I love you all tremendously. Besurot tovot.